One day, my family and I were down at the beach. We were playing in the sand making sandcastles. I was rattling through our bag of buckets and spades when I spotted this red and yellow plastic pinwheel. It was quite windy, so I grabbed it thinking this was the perfect day to show the kids how it worked. This pinwheel spinning in all its glory. It's the simple things, right? So we shoved it on top of one of the sandcastles and turned it side on to the wind, thinking it would spin like crazy, but nothing. I was shocked. I'm no Sheldon Cooper, and so maybe my physics weren't right, but knowing it would eventually turn, we just had to get it facing the right direction. We slowly spun it around towards the wind, and it went nuts, and it was beautiful. A few weeks later, I was reading some sayings of Jesus and found this bit where he describes the Holy Spirit like the wind. We do not know which way it is blowing, though we see the effects of it. I thought of this pinwheel at the beach that day. I wasn't in control of the wind, how fast or what direction it was blowing, but when the pinwheel was facing the wind in the right direction, it spun majestically. And this is how Jesus lived his life. He led his life that moved with the wind of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit empowered him to preach, to heal, and impact thousands of lives. It told him when to get rest and when to move on to the next town. The Holy Spirit led Jesus in his everyday life. This reminded me that this Holy Spirit is key to living the Jesus life in our everyday. It's about being in the right position to the wind of God's Spirit to fully come alive. In the Bible, in a book called Acts, it tells the stories of how Christianity ignited and started impacting the whole world. We see men and women with a power beyond themselves. We see people who come alive with a greater purpose, who work towards a better world, who are concerned about the poor and disadvantaged, who live lives of faith, who dig deep into developing community, who stand up against powers and structures in non-violent ways, who put their lives on the line because they see a better way for all humanity. There's this moment on a day called Pentecost where this movement initially takes flight. This moment kicks off with a sound like the blowing of a violent wind that came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. The Holy Spirit comes upon these guys and girls in a significant way. The windy scene is a bit wild, but what happens is these people who had been hiding away in locked rooms, scared for their lives, go out to the public, talking in languages that they didn't naturally speak, and start ushering in this new and exciting movement. It's a wonderful moment in history. The thing about wind is this: we can't control it. We experience the wind in nature, but we don't tell it where to go. We don't really know where it is coming from. Though experts can predict it, we all know they get it wrong too. It's a force outside of us and beyond our control. But with God, sometimes we want to be in control. We want to tell God when to work. We want to tell him how to operate. We want to tell God how things should or shouldn't happen. In the Acts 2 story, the people present that day didn't expect God to work the way he did. They expected God to do something, but not what he did. But what I love about this wind imagery is that it shows that God is beyond our control. Certainly, it emphasizes that God is God and we are not. We cannot manufacture God or how he operates. So, how did these people get to the point where God used their lives in ways beyond what they could dream or imagine? Remember the pinwheel and how it turned in the right direction? Then the wind did its thing and the pinwheel went nuts. It's about positioning yourself right in relation to the wind of the Holy Spirit. Leading up to that Pentecost day, those men and women were positioning themselves. Jesus had died and rose again. He appeared to his disciples and many others, and it was time for him to ascend to heaven. Just before he does, he leaves them with a message. Firstly, to wait, because there is more coming. The more coming is coming with power, and that power will lead to an impact much wider than you could expect. So as the followers of Jesus waited, they positioned themselves for God to act. Though they waited, they were active. So what did they do? They prayed. They gathered together, they connected with God, and they aligned themselves with God's plans. Secondly, they had faith. They believed what Jesus said. They saw in Jesus rising from the dead that he can do amazing things. And they believed for these greater things, for miracles. And thirdly, they stayed open. They laid down their control. They were ready for God to use them for whatever he wanted. We too can position ourselves to point our lives in the right direction. We can pray, we can have faith, and we can open ourselves, relinquishing control. And as we actively wait, we are positioning ourselves towards the wind of the Holy Spirit, who empowers your life to be glorious and majestic. I want to give you a little prayer exercise that helps me align my life with the Holy Spirit. I do this. I find a comfortable place to sit. I set a timer on my phone, usually for 10 minutes. Then I close my eyes and I focus on my breathing. And as I breathe in, I ask for more of the Spirit. And as I breathe out, I say, Holy Spirit, have more of me. Do this daily and you will experience the power and presence of the Holy Spirit in your life. I heard a quote recently which said, it's not about how much of the Holy Spirit you have, but how much the Holy Spirit has of you. When our lives are aligned, empowered, and directed by the wind of the Holy Spirit, we come alive. We develop greater faith and boldness. We build greater community and we look after those who are poor and disadvantaged. We work for love and not for ourselves. We live lives of hope towards a better world. The Holy Spirit will, if you position yourself right, empower your life for greater purpose and impact. Just position yourself right. More than ever, our world needs this. Today, I encourage you to soap Acts chapter 2. Soap is a way of reading the Bible that helps us notice what God is saying to us. And if you need to know how to soap, click the link below. Praying God's Holy Spirit upon you. God bless.